So in the previous session, we were continuing this Tableau session 5. So where we have discussed about the extensions in Tableau. So .tds, .twbx, .tbm, and .tdsx and all. So we have discussed about all the extensions. So today we are going to see how to use calculations in Tableau. So calculated fields will allow us to create new data from the existing data. So the columns which are coming from the data, not only that, so we can create extra columns based upon our requirement. So, so this is this is a process of creating the calculations. So these many things we can do in Tableau. So to segment data, to convert the data type of a field, and to aggregate data, and to filter results, and also to calculate ratios. For all this, we can make use of calculate fields. So let's see how we can do all these things using calculations. So let me just open Tableau workbook. So in Tableau workbook, by using calculation, we can segment the data. So segmenting the data is basically grouping the data based on our requirement. And to convert the data, like we can convert from one aggregation to other aggregation, or if you want to convert float to integer, integer to text, text to date, all those things we can do by using calculations. So I'm now connecting to Sample Superstore data. Okay, so I'll write a calculation to create a grouping. So I'll just take state here. Okay, so in state, I want to create something which starts with. So I'm just showing one calculation to show what all we can do with the calculations. So this is starts with is a function where we can use the state. So whichever starts with the letter A, or let's say whichever starts with AL. Okay, I want to see only those names. So this is my starts with AL. So you can use this as a filter. Say okay, so starts with, click on this and put it in the filter and select true. Okay, only the state names which are starts with AL will come into picture. And you can see that data itself. So that's how we can make use of this function. So this way we can group it. And let's say if uh, if starts with AI is equals to true, then you can write conditions like it will start with AL. Okay, and we can write some other conditions like else if starts with state, and let's say this is starting with B. Okay, and whenever this is true, then I want to see starts with B. Starts with B. You can write like this, so you can keep on editing like this. So you can mention, or you can segment the data based on however we want. So I'm just writing this condition. So if ever it starts with C, when this calculation is true, I want to see starts with C. Starts with C. So in this way, we can segment the data. Like in this query here. So I'll just write this as segmenting the data in the data and say okay. Say okay. and put this column. So wherever it starts with A, you can see starts with A. Wherever it starts with B, you can see it will mention as starts with B. And so there are some states which also starts with C. So this way we can resemble. And for null, so we have not written any condition for others. So that's why it is showing us null. For others, we haven't write any condition. So it is showing us null. So let me write a condition for that as well. So else if I take it, so else I will write it as others. Others. Then say okay. So I can see this. Okay, so this way I can make the grouping of calculations. By using calculation, I can do the grouping. And to convert the data type of a field, such as converting a string to a date, all these things we can do. So let me show one classic example. So we can convert any date to, let's say sometimes we won't get in a date format. So I'll just enter one date format and non-date format. So I'll just type in date format, date format. Non-date, okay, which is not in a date format. So I will just so I will enter date format here, 02/02/2022, 02/03/2022 or 2023. Okay, so in this I will enter like a text, Feb 2023 or 2022, March 2023. So this is not in a proper date format. So date format should be like this, DDMMYYY or MMDDYYY. So this normal date format should be in this form. So if you have a text like this, Tableau won't understand it as a date. So let me save this file. So I'm just saving this desktop and I'll just date check. Okay, so I'll connect this to Tableau file. So click on this and say connect to Microsoft Excel. So connect to date check file. Okay, so here we can see the dates which are coming from the Excel. So now I'll connect this to an Excel. Okay, so this is our Excel which we have created. So date in date format, you can see a calendar symbol is shown. So Tableau automatically identifies, excuse me. So Tableau automatically identifies that it is a date. Okay, so if you enter date in date format, Tableau will automatically identify. But if you enter some text, so this, manually we can say this is a date, but Tableau won't understand it as a date, but because it is not in a date format. So we need to help we need to help Tableau understand that this is a date. So let me show you how to create that. So there is a function called date parse. Okay, I'm just writing the calculation name as date parse, but there is a function called date parse, and we need to uh, tell Tableau that this is in this format. So let's say non-date. Okay, so this is in MMYYY format. Why did I say MMYYY is? It is Feb 2022. So Feb is 3 M's and YYYY is 2022. So this is in that format. So I'm telling Tableau that I have a text field which is in this format. So what is the text field? Non-date. Okay, so I want to convert this text field, which is non-date field, which is coming from the database, which is in this format. So I'm telling Tableau that this is in this format. Please convert it to date. So by using this function, it will convert it to a date. So let's see how it can convert. say okay. So now you can see there is a calendar and time symbol. So you can use this as a date. Okay, so why to convert it to date format? So when you got the information as the text value, why do we convert it to date? Yeah, it's because in date format we will have a lot of options. So let's say in this, if I take a non-date text value, so you will not have as many options in the date qualities that it has. Let's say in date you will have this drill down options. So in normal date format, so you will have drill downs like year, quarter, month, week, day. So you can do all these drill downs in by using date. So in the text you don't get those options where you can't do drill down. So you need to convert. So if a date is coming from the database, it has to be in the date format. Otherwise, we need to make that into a date format by using date part by parse function. Otherwise, it will be very tough to use date columns in the Tableau. So it will have a lot of options. So when you pull it into the filters, so you can put filters for years, quarters, months, days, hours, minutes, and all. So month, year, you can select month, day, year, you can select. So you will have a lot of options. But when you take non-date, you don't see those options. You can't see years separately. You can't see quarters separately. So that's the reason we need to convert any date or any text value which is coming as a date. You need to convert it to date. So this is the function that you need to use to create a date pass. Okay, so that is one of the reason why do we use calculation fields to convert some fields which is coming as a string to a date and to aggregate data. Okay, to aggregate data, when I say aggregate, so there are some aggregations that we have. Let's say whenever you take sales, so by default it will be sum as an aggregation. If you want, you can change it to average. So like this, you can do aggregations. You can change the aggregation functions. So even in the calculation also, you can write it as average of profit, and you can use this column across. Whenever you want to use average of profit, you can just make use of this column. So instead of manually selecting over there, right clicking and selecting that thing, you can just use this average profit. So we can see that value coming. So that's how we can create aggregation. Now we'll see to filter results. So in earlier example where we have seen, so let's say this is the segmenting the data as a column which I have created. So Tableau is creating extra column. So let's say if we go to this data check, so there are only two columns in the data. So if you see, A and B are the two columns that is coming from the database. But not only that, so that date parse is the function where I have created a new calculation field, which is creating a new column. Okay, so with by using calculation fields, we can create the new columns with the conditions that we apply. So to filter results also we can use. So how do you use for filter results is, so the same calculation which I have written to see the starts with B, starts with C, starts with AL and all. So you can use the same calculation to filter the data. So if you put it in the filters, I just want to see the states which are starting with C. So click on that and you can see the states which are starting with C. So that's about this thing. Okay, so the data, yeah, Rakib. Yeah, sure. So yeah, so if we see here, so by normally we can say this is February 2022 and March 2023. And I have converted this date parse function. By using this date parse function, I'm telling Tableau that there is a non-date column. So non-date column, which is in this format, MMM YYYY. So this is in this format. So by using date parse function only, so it will take months into consideration and years into consideration, and this will give outcome as a date. So that's the reason you can see this date icon. So I will show you. It will also give you the same result. So I'll just show month and year combination. I click on this and make it as discrete. Okay, so here you can see Feb 2022, March 2023. Same information only you will see, but you will have lot of options. When I say lot of options, you can have this drill down options. Okay, you can drill down from week to month like this. So all these options will be available. So that's the reason we are changing it to date. Is it clear? Yeah. Okay, so that's about date function. And now we'll see. Okay, so why do we use calculation is the data you need for your analysis is missing from your data source. So sometimes whatever we require, that might not be available. So let's say non-date is there. So I want to use this column, but with by using this format, I can't use it. So I have to be it has to be in a date format. So then I need to use date parse function and convert it. And you want to transform values in your visualization. So let's say in my data, I have sales, I have profit, and I want to find out discount. I want to find out discount ratio, which will be discount divided by sales. So let's take discount ratio. Okay, so sum of discount divided by sum of sales. So which is not there in the data. So this division is not there in the data. So I can do sum of discount by sum of sales. So this is one type of calculation. Say okay. So I'll take sales and I also take discount and I'll make it as text and I'll take discount ratio also and right click on this, click on format and make it as percentage as we are doing division. Okay, so as we are doing division, so we need to make use of this discount ratio. Okay, so whenever we are doing this discount ratio, so it is dividing basically discount divided by 1584 divided by 2326534 into 100. So which is 0.068, which is rounded off to 0.07%. So this way we can make use of discount ratio, like it is calculating for, we can do the division. So that's about how we can use the calculation field. Okay, so, and you want to quickly categorize data. And there are sometimes if you go to profit, I'll take some example for subcategory. And let's take profit, and I'll make a bar chart. And here I will sort it. So we can sort it based on ascending or descending. So now I want to sort it based on the descending order. Okay, so I want to see the positive values, the positive profit values I want to see in a different color, and negative values I want to see in a different color. So for that, I will write a simple calculation. So for color condition that I will write. So if my sum of profit is greater than 0, then it's profitable. Like if you are getting positive profit, then we are profitable. Okay. Else non-profitable. Non-profitable. So I'll use this calculation to color the bars. So I'll use this color condition. I'll use this color condition and put it in the color marks card. Okay, so you can see the positive values of subcategories is colored in orange color. So I'll put green and orange on red color. Okay, so you need to use these two colors specifically. I mean, not only here. So whenever you're trying to represent something, the business is performing good, then you can represent it with green color. And if you want to say business is performing bad or it is going down, so then you can represent it with red color. So these two colors you have to use it very cautiously. So when you are coloring, let's say in some cases, let's say region and sales, if I'm using this thing, so here you should not use. Why? Because uh, I don't want to specify any circle or any region with a different color, or I'm not specifying anything which is good performing or underperforming. So so you should not use red and green for normally color. So if you want to show, so for each region, I'm just showing it with a different color to understand. But here I'm not saying that central is good performing or south is good performing. So here in this case, I'm not representing in that way. So in sheet 5, what I'm doing, positive profit is good for business. So I want to represent it with a green color. Negative profit, which is not good. So then I can use red color. So use these two colors cautiously. So whenever you want to try to say something which is good or bad, then only use these colors. Otherwise, you should use normal colors. So that's about how to quickly categorize the data. So I have categorized based on the profit values. So, and there are multiple types of calculations available. So yeah. Uh-huh. Hmm. Multiple ante, like if you want to take more, yeah, it will divide. So even if you put some regions or categories, it will still calculate. So let's take for central 563 divided by 503171 into 100, 0.11. So yeah, you can put multiple columns. It will do that calculation for each and everything. So the division is, I mean, this will do on the fly calculation. So this value will not be stored. Okay. So whatever number of columns that you use, this value is not storing statically. On the fly calculation it will do. So you don't need to worry about that. So it will be, I mean, the numerator and denominator will keep on changing based on the dimensions that you use in the visualization. Is it clear? Okay. So let's go back to the slides. Okay, so we have three types of calculations. One is basic calculations that we have discussed just now. Basic calculations will be using the functions that are available in Tableau. So let's click on this. Whatever calculations that you write using these functions. So you have these many list of functions. So we will discuss not every functions, but what are the functions which we are mostly using in Tableau while writing the calculations. So I will explain you about most of the functions in this list. Mostly we'll use 30 to 40 functions by using if-else statements and some case statements. Okay, so only these two types of calculation that we use in Tableau, if else or case statements. And in these if else and case statements, we might use some of the functions which are there in this list. So that is about basic calculations. And we also have LOD expressions. So LOD expressions, I'll just give what is LOD expressions. For expressions, I have created 3 separate sessions. So to explain about this LOD expressions, there are 3 scoping keywords, which is fixed, include, exclude. So there are 3 scoping keywords. Based on these 3 scoping keywords or these 3 functions, these LOD expressions are being used. So fixed, so okay, I will tell you about this LOD expression. So these LOD expressions are used to create complicated calculations to create some advanced level of charts. So I will explain you when we are discussing about this LOD in our sessions. And we also have table calculations. So table calculations allow us to transform values at the level of details of the visualization. So, so table calculation also I will take separate session. So in this session, we will continue with the basic calculation. So table calculation, we will create it here. So I will explain you about each and every table calculation here listed. Running total difference, percentage difference and all. We will discuss in the coming sessions. So we'll just continue with calculations, these basic calculations, where we do the segmenting and all, and where we do the division and all. So we have seen about discount ratio, how we can do. So now that we have created discount ratio, let's make use of those discount ratio in color. So let's take subcategory and region, and I'll use the discount ratio in color. Okay. So by seeing the intensity of the color, I can identify central binders has the highest discount ratio. That means you can see the intensity of the color for binders is having more. So you can, by directly seeing, uh, you can say that central binders has the highest discount ratio. And the others which are in light color, you can say those are having lowest discount ratio. So this way we can make use of the calculation that we have written. Yeah. So that's about how to create some basic calculation. So we'll see one by one how these calculations we can use, and also the functions. So we'll discuss about each and every function in the next Tableau session 6. So I'll just take a pause here. So if you guys have any questions, you can ask. Okay, so Rakib, can you tell me what is TDSX? Hello. So it will contain the connection details plus data. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so let's go to Tableau session 6. I'll just open up this Tableau session 6. Okay, so in this session, we are going to discuss about how to organize the data pane and also usage of calculation fields. Okay, so we have seen few examples in the previous session 5 document. But in this session, we are going to see the functions. So as I said earlier, we are going to see each and every function, how all these functions can be used, and in what type of scenario and all, we'll see in this class and in the next class as well. Okay, so now let's see how to organize the data pane. So we need to arrange the data pane in such a way. So in real time, we might end up having hundreds of columns and millions of records. Okay, so in this sample data, so you have some 20 to 30 columns. But when you go to real time, you might be having hundreds of columns in your data. Okay, so that from hundreds of columns, if you want to pick one column or whatever required column that you want to pick, in such times you need to arrange the data in such a way that so it's easy to grab the columns. So there are some ways where you can group by folder, where you can create the folders and you can group it, or you can sort by names, which will be chronological order or alphabetical order. So that things we can do. Now let's see how to create the folders and how to create these things and how to organize the data pane. Okay, so as this sample superstore has 3 tables. So orders is there, people is there, returns is there, and these are connected with relationship model. And in relationship model, it is connected. Orders table is connected with people table with region. Orders table is connected with the returns table with order. So I will tell you about this relationships, joins, and blending in the coming sessions. So now just understand this relationship as 3 tables. So and it automatically segregated data in such a way that so 3 tables are visible. And what are the columns that are coming from tables? What are the columns that are coming from orders, people, returns? So those things you can see. So those things we can see it here and click on this orders. So these are the list of columns that you see here. And okay, now let's create. So I want to create a group. So let's say I want to create group for these measures altogether. So right click on this, go to group by. So first of all, this is arranged in a order. It is arranged in data source table way. So you can see it is grouped based on the tables. I don't want to order based on the tables. I want to order it based on the data folder. So click on this. So now you won't see the list of tables. Instead of that, you can group it based on the folders. So let's say if I create a folder for this. So right click on this and create folder. You can keep all measures in one folder. Say okay. Okay, you can keep like this. And not only that, excuse me. Okay, so not only like that, so you can just drag that measure and you can put it in the folder. So directly that will be added. So this way you can group. And let's say ship related information like ship date, ship mode, that I want to keep it in one folder. So create folder or you can add to the existing folder. I want to add ship related folders. Ship related folders. Say okay. Okay, so ship related columns will be there in this folder. So this is just for our understanding purpose. So this is nowhere related to the customer or to the client. So let's say if you have hundreds of columns, okay, so to see hundreds of columns, let's say ship related columns are, I have gathered it and have kept it at one place. In the same way, to fetch information like that, let's say from hundreds of columns, every time finding ship related information from like all the columns related to ship, if you want to find it out, so it will be very tough. So if you group it like this, then it will be good for us to find out easily. So that's the reason we use this organize the data pane. And if you want to remove from the group, go to folders and you can remove from folder so that it will be removed from the folder. And okay, so if you don't want to see based on the folder type, So earlier it was showing by group by table name. So you can just right click on this, go to group by and click on data source table name. So now you will not see that folder structure. So you will just see this tables. So tables wise, it will be separated. So this way we can organize the data. Okay, so how to create folders and all? Just right click on that and click on folders. So this folders will be enabled only when you select group by folder. So when group by folder is selected, then only these folders will be enabled. Otherwise, that arrangement will be based on the data source table. And this is the process that you can create folder. If you want to add to the existing folder, you can click on add to folder. Otherwise, if you want to create a new folder, you can create it. And the other process, yeah, Rakesh. It is just for our understanding. So if you want to create folders, so that will not make any changes in the data or in the visualization. It is for our understanding. So if you want to create, you can, let's say you have a desk and you want to keep on your desk, if you want to keep your things neat and clean, so you will arrange it properly. In the same way, all these columns are there. In this, you have only 20 or 30 columns. You can easily understand. But when you have hundreds of columns, so it will be very tough to get the columns that are required. So what do we do? So we'll create groups and we'll create what are the columns which are necessary. Sometimes we share this dashboard to other people. So they won't understand which column to use and all. So if you group it together, then it will help them. Yes. Yes, correct. Okay, so that's the reason we organize the data pane. And not only by clicking on that, you can just drag and drop in the folder. Let's say I have a location or a customer folder. So you can just drag some other column into this folder. So in that way, you can add that column into the folder. So this is other way. Okay. So now let's discuss how to combine fields. So not only by writing the calculation fields, so you can just click on the some names or we can just write the calculations. So no need to write any lengthy calculations or don't need to click on this calculate field. So that is not necessary sometimes. So you can just do few clicks and you can combine the data. So here now I want to combine customer name and segment. So select two columns. So I'll just put normally what is customer names and segment. So customer name has customer full name, which is first name and last name. And segment is consumer corporate home office. So now I am trying to combine these two data. So right click on select customer name and segment and create combined field. Create combined field and yeah, so you can see this. So these two fields got combined. So Aaron Bergman and consumer is combined. So that combination also it is separated with comma. So edit combined field. Okay, so not only with comma, whatever value that you want to keep, if you want to keep dash this as the separation, you can keep it, or you want to keep some spaces and say apply. So this way you can create a combined field and you can separate the customer name and the segment. So this is one process. You can just right click on the columns what you want and just select combine, create a combined field so that it will create. So don't need to write any calculation field. And if you want to write calculator field also, what we normally write is take customer name and just write plus and segment and say apply. And so this will also do the same operation. Okay, and here if you want to keep here you want to keep any spaces or any dash between, so you can just add that like this. Yes, if you want to write calculations, you can write, or you can directly select the columns and you can do a combine fill. Okay, not only combine, let's say customer name is there. I want to separate first name and the last name. So just right click on this customer name and go to transform and click on split. As there are, I mean, there should be a separation. So you have a space in between. So Tableau will automatically understand that there are two different names in that, and it will automatically split. So just click on split and two columns are created here. So you can see in first split, you will see first name, and in the second split, you can see the second name. So I'll just put this customer name next to this. Okay, Aaron Bergman is there. So Aaron is separately created as a column, and Bergman is created separately. So that happened for all the customer names. So this way, Tableau will create. So this thing you can write manually also, split calculation. So if you use split calculation, it is separating by space. So by using the space as a separator, it is separated two names, first name and last name. So that's how we can make use of right click option, where you can use create, or you can transform the values by just right click on that. So instead of writing calculation, we can make use of that. So that's a, yeah. Can you repeat? Which plus sign? Manually, if you want to write a calculation, yeah, you need to use plus symbol. Yes, correct. Yeah. Okay, so that's about the calculations and combined fields. So these are combined fields. So when you want to do a split, you need to go to transform. Yeah, Himanshu. Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, sure, sure, sure. Yeah, definitely. Okay, so sometimes we get information like, so now we have this information, which is first name and last name, and you want to have some email IDs. So email IDs are based on the first names. So let's say in your organization, they are making email IDs based on first name. So, and you want to put your organization name. So let's say @organization.com. Okay, so I want to put the email IDs. So email ID and part. Okay, but in the data, I only have the names. Okay, but user want to see email IDs of each and every customer. So usually in your organization, they are creating by taking the first name into consideration. They are creating the email IDs. So what I will do, I'll combine this first name and I will add this end part, email end part. Okay, so this will create a email ID and say okay. and I'll use this column. So which will show as an email ID, aaron@org.com. So these are some type of scenarios where you want to combine the data. Yeah, thank you. So that's how we can combine the data and split the data. And now let's see. Okay, so sometimes we might not use all the columns in the data. So now that I have created these many sheets, sheet 8 till sheet 8 I have created, but I have not used most of the columns. So when I like after this, I will publish this to the Tableau public or to Tableau server. So as most of the columns are not being used, so you can hide those columns. So we have an option called hide all unused fields. So you can see the list of columns in the left side. So that is called as a data pane. Okay, so this entire part is called as data pane. So in this data pane, I'm not using most of the columns. So when I click on hide all unused fields, okay, so it has removed the columns which are not being used in the worksheet, I mean the entire workbook. So those columns which are not being used. And again, if I want to show those hidden fields, those will be highlighted. So let's say category, city are de-highlighted and the normal names are coming as this. So these are the columns which are not being used in the entire workbook. So if you think that development is completed and your dashboard is ready, after the dashboard is ready, you need to do hide all unused fields so that uh, while rendering the data, while retrieving the data, so Tableau will not consider these columns. That way we can improve the performance. Okay, so hiding all unused fields. Hiding all unused fields will improve the performance. So this we need to do at the end of the development. Otherwise, what happens is you can't use these columns again. So I can't drop this in the column shelf or row shelf until unless you need to right click on this and click on unhide. Okay, then only you can use it. Okay, so whatever columns that you have hidden, you can't directly drop it or you can't directly double click on this until unless you do this unhide, you can't use that column. Okay, so after doing the development, you just choose this option to hide all unused fields so that those columns will be hidden, and while retrieving the data, so it will be easy for Tableau to retrieve the data. So it will only retrieve the columns which are being used in the workbook. So that's about uh, hiding all unused fields. So this is the process. You can see the steps and all and how to unhide. So right click on that particular column and you can do the unhide as well. And there are some default settings. So whenever you drag something into the, so let me just take one more sample superstore data. Okay, okay. So by default, let's say sales if I take, because by default, the aggregation is being taken as a sum. But sometimes what happens in real time, you might be using average most of the times. So whenever you drag, you don't want to see sum as an aggregation. So what you need to do is just right click on this, go to default properties, go to aggregation and select average. So in the entire workbook, whenever you drop this sales measure, you will see it as an average, not only in sheet 9. So in any of the worksheet, whenever you take, you can see the aggregation as average only. So that way this is called as a by default option. So by default, you can see average. So if you are using sales every time as an average, then you can make use of this. So that's a by default. If you want to change it later also, you can change it to sum again. But by default, when you are dragging it for the first time, you want to see it average or how do you want to see, we can make those changes. Not only the aggregation, so we have a lot of options. What is that you want to see? by default. Okay, we'll go one by one. So comment. Okay, so in comment, we need to tell what is the sales is for. So whenever we are making any development, so it is good, it is a good practice that you mention some comments, so that if you are transferring the work to any other person, so it will be easy for them to understand what is its particular column is for. So this particular sales information is a KPI which helps us tell which helps us how business is performing. Okay, or if you say some background, let's say for some columns there might be some background. Let's say sales is a combination of let's say site 1 sales plus site 2 sales. So you can see some background information or background story of that particular sales. Okay, so when the other person looks at this and hovers on that particular column, so you can see a background story of that particular column. So this is a KPI which helps us how business is performing, and it's a combination of site 1 plus site 2. Okay, so that information I could see on the sales. So that is about comments. Now we'll see the default properties, color. Okay, so how this color will impact. So I'll just take subcategory and sales and take this one and put say sales in color marks card. So you can see one color which is in blue shading. So that default color you can change. So this is coming as a default. So instead of that color, okay, so default color you can see is blue shading. Instead of that, you can say brown shading. Say okay. So whenever you drop average sales into color marks card, you can see this. Okay, so this particular chart I'm seeing here, by intensity of the color, I can say the value of the sales is more. Wherever the intensity of the color is less, the value of the sales is less. So that interpretation I can do, and I can change the by default settings. So if you go to a new sheet and do the same thing, subcategory and sales, and use the sales color. So now it will be brown gradient. Okay. So whenever you use that thing, so it will be brown gradient only. So I can change that color format. So that's how I can use it. And I'll show the label as well. Okay, so now the label is here. Now I'll change the number formatting. So by default, the number formatting is choosing normal number without any decimals and without any dollar symbols, without any percentage and all. So I can change the formatting as well. So number custom, every time I want to see 2 decimal places. Okay, so whenever I drag, I will be able to see 2 decimal places. So that also I can decide. Or if you want, so in number format, we'll have a lot of options. Automatic is something which will be decided automatically. So you can say number custom, where you can specify decimal values. And negatives, if negative values will be shown as -1, 2, 3, 4 like this. Or if you want to show, so it will come as a prefix, or if you want it as a suffix, you can do that. So negative value will be the next to the number. And if you want to show negative numbers as a within the brackets, so that also we can see. And display units can be thousands, millions, billions, and all. So these are the options that are available. So I want to show thousands. Okay, so it will do like this. So it will divide it by 1000 and it will show as K. So that's how we can change the default properties. And aggregation we have already seen. We can change it to sum, average, median, count, and count distance. And there is also total using So how do you want to do the total? So by default, it will do the total based on the sum. So we can do based on the average, minimum, maximum as well. So mostly we'll use sum only for doing the totals. So that's about by default properties. Okay, so this we have seen. So by just right clicking on the measures, we can do that, and we can do the comments. So these are the steps that are available. So whatever I have explained, I have provided it as a steps in the document. So try to implement this in your desktops. Okay, so we have seen for number format, we have seen these options: number standard, custom, currency custom. We can also add currency prefix or suffix we can keep. And yeah, and also we can have default color and default sort order as well. So now let's see. So default color and default sort order will be based on the dimensions. Okay, so for dimensions also we can right click on that. So we can provide in the background story of that particular column as a comment. And whenever we drag, what are the colors that we are getting, and what is the shape, and what is the sorting order, so that we can decide. So let's say customer name, I have dropped it here, and customer name, I put it in the color. Okay, so every customer name assigned with a different color, or I will take region. So region has only 4 values, so that it is easy to explain. So right click on this, go to default properties, and click on color. Okay, so by default, you see these colors. So I don't want to see this pattern. I want to see this pattern, and assign this palette. Okay, so whenever you drag, so you can see this type of colors instead of those colors. So by default, you can use these colors. So colors we can make a change, and I want to see different shapes. Okay, for central different shape and east different shape. So put it in the shape marks card. Okay, so each and every region is denoted with a different shape: circle, square, plus, cross. Okay, so this also I can decide default properties. Instead of those signs, I can use a different shape as well. Okay, I will take bug tracking KPI. Okay, assign palette. Okay, when I assign palette, so I can make use of different shapes that I want to. And we'll see the sort order. So sort order by default, it will be chronological order. But if you want to sort it based on different order, we can do that. Okay, so it's based on data source order, which is ascending. So if you want to show manually, if you want east to come on the top, south on the below, west also on the below. Yeah. So every time, whenever you drag this column, region column, so you will see it in that order only. Which is so whenever you drag region into the rows or column shelf, so it will be coming in the east, west, central, south. So this will be in this order. So in that way, we can change the default properties for dimensions, and we can also change the default properties for measures. So that's about today's session. So this session is mostly on the organizing the data pane and how to use default properties, how to create folders and all, and how to maintain the data source folder, and how to put the columns into the folder. So this all we have discussed in this session. Any questions? Yeah, sure. I will send this PPT in the group, And I will also I'm also recording this session, and I will send the link as well. Okay. Okay. Recording. Okay. Okay. Yesterday's session video I've already uploaded. I have shared it, no? PDF. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Sure. Sure. I'll share it. Okay. Okay. Then thank you all for joining. We'll continue tomorrow. Yeah. Thank you.